Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, where pop culture gets blasted. And sometimes so do the guests. Speaking of the guests, this is the home of the greatest guests in all of independent comics. This is not my show. This is your show. So when I turn my calendar page and I see, oh crap, I've done nothing for this week at all, and I put out the call, the guests come ready to fill the slots. So I had an open week, and now I've got a half open week. So we got, 3B Comics is going to be coming on Wednesday with Youth Mob. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. we will be having Mike Barron. Yes, the Bloody Red Baron will be on the channel with us tomorrow, talking about all of his latest projects. And tonight we have with us, fresh off his much talked about and really something you should read, independent book Cluster Fudge. We have with us Mr. Christopher Tamulevich. Yeah, just get him up here. Yeah, Tamulevich. Hey, I said it right, actually. I'm like, I can't read it. It's in the faded.
You did fine. Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
And your wife's name is not on there, so I'm, I have the memory of a pixie of a ferret and pixie sticks. Hello, Diana.
Yeah, anybody who follows us knows her, but yeah, you might not recognize her just yet.
I remember the Twitter idea, but yeah, the name wasn't drilled into my head just yet. Yep. So, it's Princess Diana.
It's all good.
That's right.
That's the one.
So the last time I did see Chris and Diana together, you were getting a haircut.
Yes, sir. That was on the Trash Compactor show.
That's correct.
And that was to fund Cluster Fudge, which anybody who's in the indies knows sometimes funding can stall down, and we were in a 60-day campaign on Indiegogo, which was new to us. I like to do 30-day cycles. Mm-hmm. And at 30 days, I was freaking out. So I went ahead talking to Testify and put my hair up to see if we could get the book funded. And we did. It was wonderful.
It was well worth the effort.
I thought so, yeah.
It was a lot of fun for me. I very much enjoyed it.
I could tell you were making the most of it, too, because it was like, This was something that could have been like, okay, we're going to cut the hair. No, we're going to get a hacksaw. We're going to get a butcher knife.
Yeah. And she was really trying too. She was yanking at the hair, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I wanted to make sure that it was entertaining, and I think it was. I know I was entertained, having fun chopping the hair.
The only time I was truly scared was when she grabbed the box cutters, because the razor's so sharp. I'm like,
I wasn't going to do
anything
with them. I was
Yeah.
And another glass of wine before she did it. I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah. She had like only 6 of them. So.
Oh, yeah. That was Testify's fault.
That was easy. I thought you guys would have like been pre-prepared with another ponytail with a little bloody chunk at the end of it that you could, like, I cut it off. Look, here it is.
Yeah. Oh my
we
gosh.
should have, and why didn't
that would have been fun. I'm sorry. I missed
so
it.
in 3 years time is about what I expect I could do that again in.
Yeah, when he grows his locks out again.
Because once it gets past this stage, it gets really weird, and then it gets like I can do the long bangs for a while, and then it goes quick.
Yeah, well, I've told you mine. Mine just Chia Pet straight out. It doesn't lay over anymore. So I can't do anything. We have a very active chat tonight. Mr. Yanafui is in the chat, says, nice haircut.
Thank you, Yanafui. Oh, wow, you do.
Jazz Crab is saying hi to all of us, and also to Mr. Yanafui. Glad to see you guys here. Pops Van Zant is in the show. Pops is the host of the Comics Related Madness on Facebook, to which we are simulcasting tonight. So thank you, Pops, for giving us that outlet.
Thank you.
So this is not your first campaign, and I'm looking over at the Kickstarter page right now before I share it, because, like I said, you have done Cluster Fudge.
Yes.
This was on Indiegogo?
That one was, yes.
Okay.
All our previous crowdfunders were on Kickstarter. We've done Hero Shack and Last of the Reapers.
Yeah.
Hero Shack was actually my first 2 years of doing comics. They weren't all crowdfunded at first. And then we did the 4th issue along with a compilation of 2019's books, and offered them to the readers. But basically, I started drawing comics again in 2019, and it's just a labor of love. As you know, most of your viewers know, once you get bit by the bug to create, whether you're a writer, artist, or whatever, you don't want to stop. And that's how it's been for me. Just to give you a little context, I have Asperger's, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it's autism mild and all that. But because of that, I tend to fixate. So comics became that fixation where literally I work 8 hours a day and then I come home and try to put in 10 hours a night.
Wow.
Sometimes it goes as low as 6. Usually it averages out about 8. But when people say do more shows, I'm like, it was awe-striking to me to think that I would be here tonight with you instead of drawing Cyclopian 2, which is what I've been doing over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, which is what you should do. Yeah, of course. You know, why be on a show when you got work to do?
Oh, this is exciting. I
can tell you why be on a show, because we want more and more people to know who he is, and so
absolutely
is one way to do it.
And they should. And I think you're getting noticed now. You know, the people, the word is getting around, and you have to. It has to be an industry you love. You know, why else would you spend, you know, thousands of dollars to only lose hundreds by the time it was done?
Yeah.
Right.
We argue about that all the time, and I'm sure you know, like by rights we should make a profit, but by the time I'm done playing with it, adding bling and we got to put this in and that, you know, a buck here, a buck there, everything adds up, and before you know it, she's going, "No, you lost money, honey."
Yeah,
I don't see it like that. I don't see.
No, she's very sweet, but yeah.
That's the same way every time we publish an anthology. It's like, you know, okay, well, I got 20 writers, they get $20 a piece. That's $400 for the cover, another $150 for the ISBN and the printing. I only have to sell $1,000 worth of books, and we'll be in the black. That should take about 7 more years at our current rate. So, you know.
Well, I heard you announce that Critical Blast is publishing now.
Oh yeah, well we've been publishing for a while. I don't have any of the books with me, but they're in the description below. Anybody who wants to see our books, they're deep in the description.
Maybe it was an old video. I was watching your videos and I saw you announce that you were publishing.
Yeah, that was a very old one.
Oh, okay, because I got tingly. We just got official. We just made it legal so that we are legally. What's the legal name?
We are known as Hero Shack Press LLC.
Nice.
We have the lawyers working on all the paperwork. We've already paid the funds for it. I've already signed up for all the business stuff. So we are making it legit. Currently, I work full-time. Chris works full-time. Our dream is to be able to do this full-time. So
yes, that is the dream. That's Critical Blast is, you know, it's like you said, it's a labor of love. It started out as a website where we were doing reviews. It grew into a channel by accident because I made sure that I just locked down all the social medias is what I did when I set the site up 6 years ago now. And it's only been like 2 years that we've been doing all the live streaming. And it took us this long to get, you know, over 1,000 subscribers and the 4,000 watch hours. And then we started doing the publishing. We did our first anthology 4 years ago, which was Gods and Services. And we followed that up with our first YA superhero novel, which was Bulletproof, written by Stephen J. Mitchell. And then the last one we did was The Devil You Know, which was 20 fantasy stories where they were horror, comedy, future sci-fi setting, about people's encounters with the devil, and you know how those things went. We're going to do The Devil You Know Better very soon, I think, because I've been sitting on it long enough. and I want to get the ball rolling with the new cover work and all that stuff. And then, because, you know, there's this theory that says I was put on Earth to accomplish a certain number of things. Right now, I'm so far behind, I will never die. That's my plan. So we've added critical blast logistics. I keep trying to say critical blast distribution because it's kind of all the same thing, where we're working with comic book crowdfunders to ship their books for them, particularly if they're overseas and it costs a whole lot of money. So, you know, we have clients like The Company Men, that's coming from the man called Kemosabe. That's coming out of Australia, and instead of costing $25 to ship a book, it costs $10. So we're having fun, and I'm creating bags and backer kits tonight. Got the Gemini mailers behind me. Check this out.
This is awesome. Let's see what it is.
We have some of our clients who want waterproof bags to go over the Gemini mailers. So, so they're going to arrive with their logos on the bags.
That's very sweet.
Wow, you guys are lifting the game. You're lifting the game.
Watch out.
Right? Hey, it's no Sovereign Wolf box set, but then what is? I mean,
you know, it's all a learning process. When we first got into this, we thought we were going to be using bubble wrapped envelopes like Amazon sends out.
I had no idea.
And then we heard about the Geminis, and we were doing just fine. Last time we forgot the backer boards.
That would be me.
But we're not going to forget that again.
Sorry.
But it's like a lesson thing. Every book we do,
we're learning.
Yeah, there's always another thing, and it's interesting.
Well, I know that people go to school and get an education on how to do many of the things that I'm doing without any of that. I'm just walking blindly and praying and hoping that I can.
Well, she drew the line on legalities, though. She said, now that we're going full in,
you're legit. Yes. Well, you're learning it the same way they learned it, which is by getting in and doing it. They just had a teacher, and your teacher is experience.
Exactly.
Well, I made comics all throughout my childhood and my teenage years. Cyclopian is actually one of the creations. She's right, that I had as a child. But when I was about 19, I sent a submission to John Romita Sr. in Marvel Comics.
Oh, nice.
And he sent back a wonderful letter, which in retrospect, I should have taken to heart and just embraced it. But he said, "You're not ready," which to my Asperger mind, which had gone undiagnosed, no one even knew what it was. I went, "Oh my God, John Romita Sr. wrote me and told me I suck." So I went into graphic arts instead of comic books. It wasn't until about 3 years ago that I picked up some modern mainstream comics, and I was shocked by what I saw. And that made my heart want to make comics again, because I was like, they're not doing this right, you know?
Oh no, they've gotten lazy.
Well, I got Iceman, Captain Marvel, and Guardians of the Galaxy in a 3-pack that somebody bought me. And the Iceman issue was the Notorious. It was full. I was like, what happened to my Marvel?
Yeah.
So I've adjusted. I understand what's going on over there. That's fine. That's their gig, whatever they want to do. But for me, it made me go, I want to start making heroes like I read when I was in my teenage years. John Byrne, Chris Claremont. That Marvel was where my heart was. So that was the inspiration to get back into comics, you know.
You're living my old life, man. Because I'll tell you, I could look at a picture and reproduce it, but that's not the same. So I was okay redrawing comic figures, but as far as original stuff, no. But I've been writing since I was in first grade. And when I was 11 years old, I did what you did. I wrote up a treatment for a comic book, and I sent it to Dick Giordano. No, Julie Schwartz.
In DC?
In DC. And he sent me back a letter, and it was on DC Stationery. And I was like, oh, this is great. But yeah, they weren't ready yet for another DC Marvel merger where Galactus is the reason why Krypton was destroyed.
Great idea, though.
I wrote it in pencil on ruled paper.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's awesome.
So I'm surprised he wrote me back at all. Marvel didn't, because I knew it was both properties, and I sent it to both of them.
So you understand the pain, it's like
Yes.
and then when you're doing the indie book thing, you're almost on an island until you can build a following. And even now, I'm always wanting to reach out to people, but it's so difficult and there's so much competition. And I love that. I think that's fantastic because anytime I see a comic that I'm interested in, it drives me to make a better comic. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I can still appreciate it, but now that I've actually published, shoot, I think we've done 8 books now.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, I have a different perspective. I see something exciting and I
Mhm.
go, how do you do that? I got to figure that out. That looks so cool, and
Mhm.
study the techniques. And
Well,
what
here's the thing that's different about this online comics creating community versus mainstream corporate comics, and it's what you said. The competition, it's there. I mean,
yeah,
you're competing for the dollars of the buyers, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's where you okay. I use this example. I overuse this example, but if you can imagine being in the DC offices in 1969, and Julie Schwartz is in there, and the phone rings, and he picks it up, and it's like, "Hey, Julie, this is Stan over here at Marvel. Hey, we're getting ready to do this Spider-Man thing, and I was wondering if I could pick your brain for a hello, hello." But
Right.
but
Right.
here it's like, if you see something in a comic that somebody else is doing crowdfunded, you
Mhm.
just tweet them. And it's like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is what I did. I messed this up. You want to watch out for this. When you fulfill, you want to do this and that. It's competition where we help each other.
Exactly. Because everybody wants, I would love to see all the indie artists do really well. I'd love for them all to achieve their aspirations and their goals. That to me is what a lot of the community is about. Most artists that we've talked to are very friendly, very encouraging, and just like what you said, they give their tips. They're like, "Oh yeah, I did this," or use this printer. Or, these guys are great. Like I
Yeah.
love about this community.
well, and we've had to turn recently since COVID to the internet to really communicate. We were learning in the conventions. Just
Right,
going to a
doing the Comic
convention.
Cons. Oh my gosh,
I
that was
I
crazy.
wish I had shot video because our first 2 books were so bad, and they're good bad. Don't get me wrong, but when I
Oh
look at
my
them
goodness.
compared to what I'm doing now, I'm like, and hopefully that continues. Every 2 years, I want to look back and go, oh my god, what was I thinking? But we were going to conventions with these 2 crappy books,
They weren't
and I
crappy.
mean, well,
They were a labor of your love,
they were, but
and
they were okay. They weren't crappy. What they were was very amateur,
yes,
and they had all the mistakes, all the
Raw.
telltales.
everywhere.
Every I was capitalized. The whole and
Typos, even though
we
I
had
was
pros teach us on the fly. I think his name was Bob Hall, an anchor, and he came up and he was so grumpy. And but over the course of a weekend, he had shot my book apart with a friendly heart
Yeah.
and totally gave me so much to think about. By the time I went home, I was like,
yeah.
got to do another book. I got to put
He
that
was
to
so
work.
fun. Yeah, he was like that grumpy old anchor that had been doing it for God forever. And here Chris and I come, and we're a pretty bubbly couple, and like especially at Comic Cons, I'm like all over the place. I'm decorating like I'm not a comic person, so I have no idea what I'm doing. I love to decorate, so we're gonna do this.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I geeked out and I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Mr. Hall, I can see you're really tired, but I gotta tell you, you inked a lot of the things I read when I was. And he's like, what? Will you sign my book?
Yeah, I think people thought it was just to get rid of us, but anyway.
Yeah. I miss conventions. I miss the conventions I was going to in the late '80s, where you didn't have to pay an extra fee to get a ticket to see an artist and get something signed, and the artists were actually there. The companies were there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I go to Wizard World and it's just a big flea market of independent artists. There's no comic companies. There's no DC or Marvel. 80, 87, 88, 89, I was going to Chicago Comic Con at the the Hilton O'Hare. Yeah, Ramada Hilton. I forget, but it was at the O'Hare. And you just walked up to Denny O'Neil, and he was like getting up to go to lunch, and you say, "Oh, I'll come back later." He's like, "No, give me your book." Peter David signing stacks of Hulk this high for a guy, and
Yeah.
y-
Well, I get
it
that
was
now.
so open. Yeah,
I get
so
that.
open and approachable.
What is it, like an extra fee to see the big name artist and
Well,
the
it depends.
writers
We've
and
been to a
stuff?
lot of conventions though, where they have the paid guests. So you go in, you know that the convention's already paying them a sum, and then you're
Yeah.
paying an extra 40 to 80 to $120. Usually, it has some actors in there from, really old shows that is really nostalgic. And
but a lot of people like it. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I never get a chance to spend my money like that because we're there, shilling our book at the table. So
I go there to buy original art. And the last time I was at a convention, I met Dan Doherty, who does a strip called Beardo. And my son was 8 years old at the time. He's 13 now. I don't know how that happened. But I said, he's really into Archie. I mean, he's got like 1,000 to 1,500 Archie digests that he's collected. He's got this shelves full. That's no exaggeration. He read all of them. And I was like, I want to get a picture of the little Archies. And he's like, well, can you show me a reference of these characters? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, no little Archie. But no, I gave him the characters and I showed him a picture of my son, and best $125 I ever spent. Because there's my son walking off arm in arm with Betty and Veronica, and Archie's like, what the hell just happened? And Jughead's laughing his ass off.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But I can't pay for signatures. I just won't.
Yeah.
Fortunately, attending conventions as a member of the press,
I mean, like on a book, you wouldn't pay for a signature, right?
Yeah, I don't pay for it. I certainly don't buy signatures online. If I don't get the signature directly from the person, it's not the same thing to me. I don't have that memory of saying, I remember talking to this guy while he was signing my book.
Yeah, instead it's, I bought this on eBay and it's signed by Stan Lee. Is it?
Oh, I was, the last time I was at a Chicago convention, I realized just how cool I was as a nerd. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been reading comics since kindergarten and before. And, I'm superhero trivia king. I'm a nerd. But I was standing there waiting for something to open up and get into it. And this guy walks up to me. And he was starstruck. He had just walked out of a room with Stan Lee and had the signature. And he's stereotypical glasses with tape on them around the bridge. He walks up, he just out of nowhere, he walks up to me. He's like, I met Stan Lee. He signed my book. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's nice. Hey, did he? And I don't even have to finish the sentence because the guy just moved on to the next. I said, I just met Stan Lee. He signed my book. And he's going to everybody like an apostle for Jesus.
That's Chris. I kid you not. Who's the guy that you met at that Comic-Con?
Okay. So to me, he's a legend. But we were in New Jersey, I believe it was. We were at a Jersey Con.
Yeah.
And Joe Stanton came around the corner.
Joe Stanton. I had no idea who he was.
I may be saying it wrong. It might be Staten, the guy who did Green Lantern and E-Man.
E-Man, yeah.
Yeah, well, I jumped off the table, like over the table, and was like,
oh
my God, it's you! And like, I went, and he went, hi. And I went, can I hug you? And he's a little man. And like, he's like, huh? And I went, oh! And he was like, what? And I'm like, I love you, man.
Out. I was like, Chris, this is...
He had me over to the booth and gave me a Dick Tracy comic that he signed and got his business card. And it was really a sweet moment. But yeah, I'm like that too. I went right around the tables going, hey, that's Joe Stanton over there. Go see him. And they're like, who's that? And I'm like, you don't know?
Yeah, come on. Who doesn't know?
But I did. I totally geeked out. And Simon, I always say his name wrong. Walt Simonson.
Walt Simonson, yeah.
He and his wife were across from us at one convention, and I could not approach him. I would have been, in my heart, I was just like, oh my word. So I sat across the thing for 2 days just looking at him like, and he had the crowds, and I was like, I love that man because
yeah.
The best store ever.
And it wasn't until just recently that I got a bit of trivia about his wife, Louise Simonson. You remember that House of Secrets comic book? It was the first Swamp Thing. It's the woman at the mirror combing her hair and the monsters looking in through the window. She was the model for Mike Kaluta to draw that. So that is her as a younger woman posing for that picture.
That is a chunk of trivia there.
That's trivia for the day. Speaking of comics, we should actually talk a little bit about the Great Cyclopean here. And looking at this, I love this idea because, folks, for the elevator pitch on this, it's like, what if Kryptonians didn't look human?
Yes.
And Superman lands and he's adopted and he's sent to school and he's raised, but he doesn't look human.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, of course, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to this character than just the Superman trope because, uh, well, I can't say too much. Can I say it?
Yeah.
The origin thing?
You can share a little bit, yeah.
All right. Well, if you read the old Hero Shack, you know where we're going, anyways. But he's actually tied to the god Ra from Egypt,
Okay.
and he did make it to outer space, but he is not from outer space. Uh, this series goes into what actually happens to him when he crash landed. He actually came. Should I tell him? I'll tell him. He actually came from Egypt. He was jettisoned from a pyramid, went into outer space, got shot down, and landed in New Hampshire on May 3rd, and destroyed the old man in the mountain. And they found him. They took him in and have raised him because obviously he's not your average guy. Uh, but there are details in that open up. Basically how I'm doing it is so that you understand his character and hopefully fall in love with his character because he really is the Boy Scout. He seeks to do good, and of course everybody wants to exploit him.
He's very funny, even though he can't really speak.
Well, the thing is, he can't speak. So when you watch him, his dialogue balloons, you can read it. Watch his hands when I draw him because he's always signing a piece of the dialogue.
Right.
Oh.
Word of the dialogue.
I was gonna say because he has no mouth.
Right. Yes. There's no mouth. He's very. I think he's extremely adorable, but of course, it's my husband's character from way back when, and I've been around him.
He has no ears and no mouth, so that handicaps him. It also leads intelligent readers to ask, well, how does he eat? And that is actually played up in Cyclopean 1 a little bit, but nobody is shown how he eats as a reader. People who do see it, people who do see it commonly get ill, freak out. But yeah, the reader will never see it as far as we're concerned. And I do know how he eats, and I've told my wife, and she said, don't tell anybody. Don't ever tell anybody. So
let's just keep that a mysterious thing about him for now, anyways. But the character is very funny. I find him very endearing, and I'm not your typical comic book reader. Like, if my husband wasn't doing comic books, I probably would never pick one up. And not because I don't appreciate the art. It's just something I never gravitated to. I'm learning.
Normie.
Normie. He called me that once. I had no idea what a normie was, but yes, I'm a normie.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that bit.
We'll go with that. I'm a normie, I guess.
So,
Whatever.
but yeah, so the book is actually 40 pages. The first 29 are actually the first issue of Cyclopean. As I said, we're working on number 2 already. There's a backup story for Kidclopean, which is a series that we want to start using another artist. I want to make it more of a cutesy, cartoony thing, and I want to do it in volumes, large. I guess they would call them trades today or something of that nature.
Yep.
But we want to run the shorter stories in the back of Cyclopean issues, and then group them together at the end of the year, and then we'll have one good solid volume.
And it's really, these stories are when he was a child growing up.
Right, third grader.
Right, because the story Cyclopean picks up after he's already grown and he's graduated high school. So
Kidclopean deals with him when he's in elementary school. His 3 bestest friends. It's actually Kidclopean and his 3 bestest friends of the title. Zoe the Zombie, Bluey Blue Blob, and Domiyosho, who has 2 heads that are always around him, and the scientists believe they're psychic apparitions that he's creating. The question is, are they, is it really an angel and a devil, or is it just in his head? But everybody can see them, so they're actually there. Zoe the Zombie, of course, is a dead girl who goes to school. And Billy Blob is a blobby little character. And their exploits are meant to be for a younger generation, say between the 9 and 12-year-olds. Whereas Cyclopean is basically PG, which PG-13 these days is like rated R of my era. So basically you'll get no cussing, but there'll be some cartoon violence,
Right.
but there you can do so much within that. Like I remember the
Yes.
Comics Code Authority, and still I found stories that were compelling and contemporary and not like just, hey, there's a fire, Superman will save that. No, they had plots and they were great.
And they took an issue to tell.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
They didn't drag out over a year and a half.
Right.
We do have some chat questions here. Robert Roberts is asking, does he use signed English or ASL? And I didn't know there was
ASL. Yes.
ASL.
Okay, so he's ASL, and he's asking if you guys still get work from DC. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten work from DC, but
I've never done anything for any comic book publisher. I was in graphic arts, did a lot of trade stuff, a lot of, things for other industries in advertising, but yeah, no DC.
and Mike Walters is theorizing, since he's from ancient Egypt, or at least from Egypt, that may be tied to ancient Egypt, is talking about how interesting it would be if they came into contact with some of the other ancient Egyptian superheroes out there, like Prince Khufu, Hawkman, and Shazam and Nebu the Wise, which we do have a lot of people come from Egypt.
Yeah.
Well, I must tell you,
Ibis the Invincible.
in the Hero Shack
Sandbox.
In Search of Heroes miniseries, I actually did a crossover with an independent comic called Pyramid Knights out of Massachusetts, where his character Priest Judas came in, and they actually did a whole examination of how he came from Egypt. But to be straight up and honest, Cyclopian one is a whole new take on it. So the Hero Shack stuff should really be looked at more like a
Mythology.
a reboot of that universe, because
Right.
there, to be honest with people, there were so many mistakes in there as far as writing goes and far as development goes. I just had to retreat the character,
Sure. Sometimes you just got to start over.
Yes.
I keep looking at him. I'm thinking, wouldn't it make a great action figure if we could just get like a He-Man body and pop a head off and just kind of hump it over?
Funny you say that, because I am actively pursuing a couple of different companies to make a Cyclopean doll. I created one. Do we have
There's one
one?
over there.
I'm going to show you what I created by hand.
Okay, full screen coming up.
All right, here we
We
go.
got-
To decorate the table. All right, so I don't know how to.
That's awesome.
Okay, oh there.
Well, this
So-
is a small prototype.
This is.
It also shows me you guys are in reverse.
Yeah. He's got his little cape with our little logo on the back. But this is all hand done. It's nothing I would ever sell. Obviously, I'm looking for somebody who does this sort of thing to help me fabricate them. The ones that I'm looking to make are going to be 10 to 12 inches. They're going to be much larger than this. But we would like to have these available when we go to our Comic Cons this upcoming summer to.
Yeah, the
either
thing
sell
about
them
it
with
is
the book
it sounds a little like we're jumping the shark when we have a book that,
We're not.
it's not a big circulation. But when people see this guy on a table, they all want one, especially the kids. So it's like,
Of course.
all right, we'll look into getting it made professionally, and
Yeah.
we'll
Waiting
we'll
for the
take the
numbers
dunk.
to
And if
come
nothing
in.
else, I think the comic book will be a success over time. If nothing else, we'll have collector's items of the first run.
Well, the thing is, like, I know that when our very first Comic Con, he did character sketches of every character that was in his book. And we printed them out. We had them printed out. And we actually gave them away to kids.
Wow.
And I was literally taking a tally on our most popular characters just by the write up in the back, what their powers were, what did they look like, and getting feedback from our audiences. Okay.
That was
and
Lorenzo. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw that. Cyclopian was like our number one giveaway. So I think he's going to be a big success.
He's got a unique look to him.
He does.
And now,
you have to read the character to fall in love with him. Sorry, you didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you're not. I'm in a
Get the PDF I sent you.
I did.
Okay.
I have not read it all the way through yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah, no big deal. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't send it to someone else. This morning, I actually texted, or when we agreed to do the show, I texted her or DM'd her in Twitter, and I didn't realize I was in a group. So everybody in the group was like, Hey, you're going to be on what? No, not everybody.
Do that again.
You're going to be where?
Do that all the time you're coming on here. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know what to say next.
Well,
ask a question.
Oh, you know what? I would like to ask or say one thing. There are 2 tiers in there that are kind of weird. Right. One is for 3 books and one is for 5 books. But you're not buying any books for yourself. Yeah, you'll see there's a word wall there. We put those up because we like to give out stuff at conventions. And every campaign I've done so far, we have people who say, I don't really read the comics. I wish I could just donate. And in fact, Last of the Reapers and Cluster Fudge, we had people actually just donate some money towards it and not even collect their book, right? So I put these tiers up so that people who want to do that can buy a book for $10 because I can knock off the shipping, and then we'll give them out at a convention, and we'll actually number those and then like keep track of the first name of the kid and the first name of the donor, and then put it up on our website so people can see, okay, they bought, the $30 package, which is 3 books, and we gave it away to someone named Lucy, someone named Tom, and someone named Ben from Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Maine, or wherever we are,
The age group we're targeting, I think, is like 9 to 17.
Yeah, it's going to be all kids.
It's going to be all kids. And, one of the things that we've seen in some of the Comic Cons, families come in. They don't always have the extra money to buy a book for, the kids and stuff like that. So we thought that would be.
Well, a lot of times it's not that they can't get the kid anything, but by the time they make it to our table and the kid wants to get some crazy comic, we like to just give them something. It doesn't matter what, whether it's been the printouts or
coloring pages.
Yeah, anything, So
I usually come up with something.
Right. So it's actually kind of just a way so that people can get involved with that, who'd want to give, like, I know I have a family member who's coming to give money to it. You know what I mean? It's like, don't just give money, buy something, and then we can go ahead and give something out. Because one of the biggest things I think comic books as an industry needs to do is get inroads to the kids.
Get the younger generation.
Absolutely.
I work with 600 kids, and only 3 of them know what comics are, and only 3 of them are interested in them,
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because you mentioned before the show that you work with kids. What do you, without doxing yourself in the wrong way or anything, what do you do?
I do IT for education. So
okay.
I literally will go into buildings and set up networks and maintain, the technology. And that is one of the coolest jobs to kids. They're like, hey, you fix computers. You're so cool. So I get to see into their world. And right now, most of them are just into video games and YouTube. Even manga, it's there, but it's kind of there like it was when we were kids, like comics were. Like there's a small group of kids that really love it and spend a lot of money, but overall they're doing, YouTube, and they're talking about the latest K-pop, and they're playing games that I've never heard of that I have to go, figure out how to block because they're on 18 different servers, It's like,
yes.
Yeah. Well, remember, in education, it doesn't take much to be inappropriate.
No, it doesn't. I actually went to a website when I'm IT as well, and I found a 3D thesaurus, which I thought was really cool because like you put in a word and it puts up this word frame. And it's like whatever was closer was better, and then you could move it around and the words would shrink, and it was very, very cool and very, very useful for writing up reports and such. But it ran on an engine that it had taken from a game. So the cookies on the machine said, okay, it's time to update the engine, go to the game site. Now, the game site was blocked, so it would cause a hit. And then the thing would say 5 minutes later, we're not updated, go get the update. So, the network guy comes to me and says, are you playing a game on your computer? I'm like, no, he's like, you're sitting here pinging our system. And we couldn't get to the site on my machine, so we went to the one computer that was like off the network for that kind of stuff. Put in the site name, and here comes this engine with like spaceships and asteroids, but it's all on this wireframe. I'm like, I've seen that before, and I took him back and I showed him the thesaurus, and he's like, okay, business excuse, and they used a game thing for it. Like, clean it off there, and you're not in trouble. I'm like, that's all I cared about. I'm not in trouble.
Well, see, I'm very fortunate because the people I work for, they're not quite as restrictive. so I can be more personable. I know the IT drill where it's like you almost feel like the computer police are there and they're going to shut you down and they're looking at your history and they're like,
Yeah.
ESPN, huh?
Yes.
No, we don't have to do anything like that, thankfully. So that part of my job is good. I don't think I could be like a forensic computer guy. I would feel really weird.
Oh yeah, getting into people's stuff. I've personally witnessed too many horror stories that thankfully I was not the star of. Elasmat Films is in the chat. Welcome, Elasmat. Glad to see you here, man. It says Cyclopian definitely needs to be your flagship character. He looks too sublime not to be.
So if I can just throw something at Elasmat, brother, he inspired me with Drake. The whole idea with Cyclopian was initially he was part of a big group of heroes that were in one book, which of course is one of the rookie mistakes. You don't make books about groups. But when I saw Drake and I saw his love for his character, and I have a love for Cyclopian that's unheard of, I was like, yeah, we can do this too. Mm-hmm. So I got Cluster Fudge done, and that was really, I wanted to get that kind of surrealism into a book. But now it's like, okay, now I'm ready to really work on Cyclopian. Our mic? Hang on. You know what it is? It's a terrible mic. I'm sorry. We'll be buying a new one shortly. I gave her my good mic, and I got this one from Amazon. It looks cool, but it's not. It's really not.
I can hear you just fine, but apparently it's not coming through. Maybe for the people watching YouTube or chat. Mike, yeah, Mike, I know that was not connected to DC. I was putting that in context for everybody else who was watching who might not be as trivial aware as you are about comics characters and their universes.
Yeah. So this is very cool. You have a whole chat that I'm missing too. I don't have my glasses on because I look really terrible when I put them on. You won't find them either. They're in the other room.
So these are cool. So if you do contribute to the $30 or the $50 tier for the 3 or 5 free comics for kids, you still get a PDF for yourself to read.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
You still get the PDF.
I find reasons to send PDFs to someone. I'm like, please take a PDF. It'll be so cool. Because it costs you nothing. And then they can really see it. Like personally, I think PDFs are great on phones. I love carrying people's, I get a PDF and I put it on my phone, which is, the Max 12. So it's big enough that you can read it, but it's not so small that it's hard, and everything looks crisper and tighter. Mm-hmm. I love the PDFs myself.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
You always said that.
Yeah,
but I like books too.
I still, I was gonna say, I still prefer the books. PDFs are great for review purposes. Like I get the Dynamite stuff all the time, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't buy that book, or gosh, I'm gonna have to go out and buy this book. If I like it, I have to have it in my hands. It's like Stan Lee said about boobs, they look great on the screen, but I'd rather be holding them.
That's right. I like Stan Lee, by the way. Whenever people would ask me about my father, who I actually didn't know, I would often joke and say Stan Lee had a lot to do with my upbringing, because if it wasn't his writing, it was his editing. And even then, if it wasn't him directly, he influenced Marvel in a way that it was able to reach me where I was,
Right. You've always said that.
Yeah.
That Stan Lee was your...
Well, and really, I should probably give most credit to Chris Claremont, because he's like the one writer I never forget.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even know why. I mean, to me, those were just comic book stories, but the X-Men still in my heart.
So many comic creators out there that had a hand in, forming our core personalities, as children, and that speaks to how important the job really is. I mean, I talked with Mike Grell several months back, over a year back now. Gosh, and I talked to him about his John Sable freelance books that I was reading at 13, and it was the issue where he's supposed to go out on a date with this girl, and she can't make it, and she says, "Here, take this guy with you." He's a friend of mine, and turns out that the guy is gay, and this is 1985, mind you, 1984, and John's just like nervous the whole time. He's like giving the guy the side eye the whole time, and the whole basketball game or whatever it was they went to see is over, and he's driving him home, And he looks at him and says, "Hey, he's got it figured out." He's like, just because you're straight doesn't mean you sleep with every woman you meet, does it? And he's like, no. And they shook hands and they were like friends. And I'm like, I was cured of homophobia at 13 years old because of Mike Grell putting it into a context that my, little Southern Illinois mind could grasp.
And really, that's what comics, I don't want to say they lack it because there's so many comics now, but too often I look at comics and there's a place for them and I'm happy, but they're made for adults and there's not enough for kids. And I'm not saying that Cyclopean is just for kids, but I want to keep it at a place where the adults can appreciate it and the kids can love it without having to hide it from mom,
Right.
Exactly. Because, that was the other thing about comics back then. My dad could pick up Jonah Hex and read it, put it down on the coffee table. I could pick it up and read it, and he didn't care because it was enjoyable at both levels. The 40-year-old could read it and enjoy it. The 10-year-old could read it and enjoy it.
Well, my mom used to get a little upset about Storm when she was in the white hair with the strap-on dress, but she was cool about it because she was dressed. There was no nudity, But she was like, "Do they really have to draw her like that?" And Mom, she controls the weather. She needs to wear that dress.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Here, Mom, look at Warlord for a while.
Yeah, here, get her some Peanuts or some Archie. Archie was a good family book. You could have that out all the time.
All the time.
I had some Archies in mine too.
So, what are the powers of the Great Cyclopean here? I mean, we talked about who he is and where he kind of comes from, but
so
what's his deal?
His powers are evolving. He's just gone through puberty. He has strength limited to probably approximately 20 tons, according to the scientists. Limited invincibility. His invincibility really works. If he sees something coming and he tenses up, his muscles are so strong that he literally becomes steel hard. He is susceptible to blows from out of his sight range. He has some resistance, but he's not invincible. If he sees it coming, no problem. You come up behind him with a baseball bat, you won't knock him out, but he'll feel it. It's not the same guy when he
wasn't ready.
He doesn't have like the flying ability that the cape would suggest, but he can leap. He can do all sorts of neat little things within the boundaries of his strength. But his strength is kind of unknown. For example, he ran against the speedster in this world, whose top speed is about 85 miles an hour, and beat him in a race, doing about 100 miles himself. Now, if you hear 85 miles an hour and you go, that's not fast, put your head out the car window at 85 and see.
Yeah.
In my universe, with these heroes, they are very capped on their abilities, not because I want them to be less superheroes, because that's not really what makes the hero. And limiting their power levels will make much more interesting storylines. Or at least that's how I've always felt. Now, in time, as the series grows, we may introduce stronger and stronger characters, but I think it's a good starting ground. Like, at this point in their universe, he's like a very powerful creature. And if you know Marvel and DC, 20 tons is nothing. So it's like he's one of the strongest guys on the planet, but yet he's only at 20 tons. So it's a good way to relate it.
Strength, so definitely strength and speed. He does have some speed.
Yes.
But he doesn't have flight.
Yeah, the costume's familiar.
And the costume isn't going to last. That is the official costume from the U.S. government. In issue 2, he actually goes against a huge squid. We're talking like 500 feet big, and it rips up the costume totally. The government's going to continually try to push it on him, but of course, he's 19. He wants to dress up. He wants to be cool.
He wants to do his own thing.
And many of you, in fact, at the top of this Kickstarter, there's a picture of him in a hood. That's closer to where he's headed for a costume.
Right. I think he's a very relatable character for young people because he's going through a lot of those angst things, those kinds of first time, like
there's the hoodie one.
Yeah, first time I got to put a tie on. What do you mean? Like those kinds of things that I think that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who will relate to what. I just write the character, and then I'm amazed when people do relate. But there are those, fish out of water moments. But it's not because he's a fish out of water. It's because he simply hasn't had to ever tie a tie. He had to get a special suit just to be able to tie a tie because he doesn't really have.
They don't have a neck, no.
Yeah, it's basically a bulge at the top of his shoulders.
So how did he deal with middle school kids calling him One-Eyed Peter?
You're stealing some of my thunder down the road. Some of my
okay. I'm just saying. I noticed the name. I saw he was one eye. I'm like, really?
Well, my initial thought was One-Eye Willie, and
that would have been just as bad.
By the family.
Yeah, I said no way, no.
But Peter somehow went through, so I was like, yes, his name is Peter. Now, see, she's like, I never even thought of that.
Thank you.
Too late. It's in print.
But that was my slip through. I yes, I've been thinking about that too. But middle school is going to be a few issues down the road because he's still in 3rd grade. Don't look at me like that. I'm in so much trouble.
I never put that together.
Yes,
oh
I know.
Gosh.
I was so fortunate.
Okay.
But as you can see, that's actually a good illustration of some of the stuff that I do. Like that's not a terrible thing, but it's a little bit more mature than your 7 or 8 year old. It's probably going to go over all their heads, but
yeah, exactly.
It's more of a Shrek humor thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you kept the campaign pretty simple, and I like that because there's add-ons are going to make it even simpler in the future. And this is you get the PDF or get the comic book. Beyond that,
once you go in, and maybe I should put that on the page, but we are still doing our 10 card sets, which we put out with every book that we crowdfunded. But you don't see that till you go into the extras. Maybe we need to add that.
We should maybe.
Oh yeah, you should have an add-ons page here just to let them know that hey, click on through for the other goodies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's there.
Yeah, you need to fix that.
Okay, well we still have 20 days, so I'll do it tonight.
15.
Yeah.
15.
One of the things that we got with Cluster Fudge.
Oh yeah.
We got some cool stickers. I've only got one left because the other one has joined the sticker collection on the back of not only on the back of my laptop, but I've got a 32-inch monitor over here to the side. I'm like, okay, the back of that thing is just facing the outward room. I'm going to start defacing it with stickers now.
There you go.
That's awesome.
We got this really cool metal card of Cluster Fudge. I'm taking this out to the garage later. I'm going to file the edges so I can go like Gambit and stick it in walls and stuff. Because this is a weapon. Yeah, yes.
When we first started buying them, they didn't individually wrap them, and it was almost like that. You could like literally, if you knew where there was some drywall that you could ruin, it would stick in the wall.
I like that the corners are rounded at least.
Yeah. Well, they've started making changes. I think they were afraid of a lawsuit too. The first batch we got out, it was almost like, can we give these to kids?
They're like,
sure. They're as safe as jarts. Come on.
Yeah, but everything we do, we like. So you got I don't know which package you got, which
card.
But you got one card in your thing, right?
We sell packs of
right.
cards.
So we also do in the larger tiers in previous crowdfundings, we put them as one of the tiers. Get the book and the metal cards. But this add-on deal was new to me, and I didn't think about adding it to the actual.
Well, you have to let people know we have it.
Well, one of the most important add-ons you should have, the most important add-on you should have is the book itself, because somebody, like Lorenzo Sleestack is here is talking about, if you want to get 2, if you want to get 3, you say, here's your book. What else do you want to get? You want to get the book again? Okay, how many?
Right.
And Lorenzo's probably going to kill me because I told him I would do this last week, and I still haven't, but I will do it tonight, buddy.
He decided, normally I've been doing the crowdfunding. I've been setting up the page. I've been asking for him, you just send me a write-up, send me the images, but I manage the page. He decided he wanted to do this page because the Indiegogo page, I went with a 60-day thing. Why not?
Yeah, but here's the thing. With Indiegogo, if you do a 30-day page, you can do another 30-day page right after. You can extend it. Yeah, Kickstarter, you got 30 days and you are done.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, right?
Well, I do love the 30-page deadline.
The 30 day,
or the 30-day deadline.
Deadline, yeah.
like, okay, so let's say Cluster Fudge doesn't, or I'm sorry, let's say Cyclopean 1 doesn't fund for whatever reason. I'll put out the next crowdfunder with 1 and 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want it to succeed. I want to do every 30 days. And if I have to do it another one again, I'll do it. But I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about getting the next issue done, because I think one thing creators don't get in indie unless they force it is they don't get that regiment where every 30 days, every 30 days. I believe that there's something in that formula that allowed Marvel to have so many great characters. I think there's something about going, oh my gosh, I have a deadline. I have to come up with a character. And somebody says, how about Electro? Yes, Electro. That's good.
Yeah. Brainstorm it right now.
Stable. What's that?
Brainstorm it right now.
Yep.
Villain, go. Look around. Hydro Man, water. Yeah, made out of water.
Yeah, and water, you can drown in it. So we'll do that. Yeah. But I think there's something to the formula of rapid fire, come up with this quick. And it's why comic books are kind of cheesy sometimes, but it's also why we have the most memorable characters of our lifetime being put in movies everywhere now. It's kind of getting oversaturated like the Westerns did, but that's good too, because once Hollywood's done with it, maybe
we can get it back.
We get some of that oxygen.
Yeah, we can get it back and start getting. The comic book movie industry is the strangest thing I've ever seen in terms of Marvel. We do it every other Saturday show called the LCS Guys, where we have retailers on our show, and they talk about what they're doing behind the stands and their experience running a shop. And Mike Tierney tells the story. All the Marvel movies were out, and he had people coming into his store saying, "Hey, yeah, we just saw Captain America, and now my kids want some Captain America books. Well, we've got him over here, but he's a Nazi right now. well, okay. How about the Thor book? We have Thor, but Thor is a woman at the moment, and Iron Man is a teenage black girl, and they walked out without buying the books. So I mean, Marvel was doing this 6-year, $10 billion commercial for a product they didn't sell. And they're doing it again. They're killing off Doctor Strange right before the movie comes out. This Multiverse of Madness, and people are going to say, "Hey, this is a pretty good Doctor Strange movie. I'd like to check out the comics." And they're going to go there, and he's going to be dead.
Yeah. Well, I guess the only people who could benefit from that would be selling back issues. The local comic book shops. But even then, people want the latest, greatest. I want, Robert Downey Jr.'s character in a piece of metal that I can look at and say, "Look, I got this new comic."
Yeah.
There, you're right. Marvel is totally shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully when we have the Cyclopean series on Netflix, it'll be animated, and
that would be amazing.
And maybe we can get Aardvark Anaheim, or not. Who is it that does Wallace and Gromit? I want to say it's Aardvark Studios. This looks like it'd be great claymation.
Actually, it would be when he draws interest from people in that field. Believe it or not, we met a guy who does he's a huge guy. He does costumes, cosplay, Swamp Thing type stuff.
Oh my
Groot
God.
and all these other characters.
This was it was in New Jersey.
I thought this one was Manchester, but
it was the Manchester. It was Granite State.
But he was like, I want to do this guy as a costume, and we haven't contacted him back yet, but maybe we will now that we've started the series.
He'd make our prototype.
Yeah, so you're right. He could do claymation. He's a physical character, like if I could come up with someone to wear that at 7 feet and 300 pounds of muscle.
Or just somebody that could put a costume on that looked like that.
Well, if someone looks like that, please contact us. We will sponsor you and make you our spokesperson.
Our spokesperson.
You need a Dick Durock or a Peter Mayhew kind of guy.
Oh no, I meant if he has the one eye in the center. I want to know that guy.
Yeah, that would. Well, you just need shoulders to come up to like your ears, and then just put a cap on like Juggernaut, and just look out the eye. Look out the mesh screen eye.
We have literally talked about trying to make that make it ourselves, and I'm like, we are not there yet.
Well, it'll come in time. Like I have a belief about my comics when they are higher quality. When I reach that level,
Yeah.
whatever it is, the people just come and buy them when you reach a certain level.
Yes.
I appreciate all the customers we do get, but like I know that, for example, John Byrne. When you hit that level, John Byrne, boom, your stuff sells. Ethan Van Sciver, another big name, boom, his stuff sells.
Right.
It doesn't mean their stuff isn't quality, because it is. But they hit that level.
They're
where
printing
people
money.
start seeking them out.
Exactly. So this is going to go 30 days on Kickstarter. Are you planning to jump it over to Indiegogo after that? I know a lot of people, play both markets.
I may take it and plug it over to Indiegogo once it's finished here.
Okay.
She's truly the business side of it. Yeah, because I never would have done Indiegogo just out of fear. I was like, I don't know how to set up an Indiegogo.
No, I think it's worthy to do it because you do hit different crowds. For whatever
Well, he's
reason.
right, and they do play favorites. Some people will not order from one or the other.
For whatever reason, I found that there are people that will do the Indiegogo, and then there are people who Kickstarter, and
that's what he's saying. So we should probably jump it over. So,
and some people do great on both.
Right.
Common America makes $11 gajillion on each platform. So
another great inspiration too. Those guys are fantastic. You need to look them up.
Okay.
But first we got to get this one over the hump on Kickstarter, so that you're not starting from scratch on Indiegogo. It's just like we're making extra. We're over halfway into the campaign. We are not halfway over the goal. So, folks, we need you to check out this Kickstarter. The link for this is right below. It's the very first line in the description below the video. You don't have to expand it to the read more stuff where I've got all my useless information and stuff. You don't need to read that. Read this, click to this, order this, and then read this when it comes in. And file it next to your Cluster Fudge comic. Different world, right? Different, not the same.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, well.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, but yes.
Yes. Well,
because you have.
There's something that's going to unfold.
Uh-oh.
There is something that comes out of that.
But it's not in his world.
Well, you've read it. You know the little girl at the end of the book?
Yes. I'm waiting for her story.
Yes. She eventually becomes entwined into the universe that Cyclopean is in, but they're not directly connected at this point. But Cluster did exist in the same universe. The story of the Silver Scribe will not float over to the Cyclopean world, even though they coexist.
I love the Silver Scribe. He was what really made the book.
It was cool, wasn't it?
So I already have issue 2 partially drawn in the first 5 pages, and I have a ton of fun with him. There's a female that comes into the story with him. He's definitely cool. But we'll wait and see if we're going to do that sequel or not. Right?
By the way, that's something else.
We will do a Cluster Fudge sequel because he left it as a sequel. He left it like, I need to know what is going to happen. Like, I might live with the writer, but he doesn't like it. I might read the script and I might do the best job I can in editing, but I don't always know. Like, one week I'll read it. Sunday morning is my reading day, right? So I sit there with my coffee. I go through it. Typo. No, I don't like the way that's worded. Let's switch it up. And it doesn't make sense. Yeah, whatever. Halfway through the week, he'll send me another PDF. So I changed some things. Yeah, I like flip-flop some things around. So I'm like, oh my God.
Well, the thing is, based on her feedback, and I also get feedback from my son, who is kind of like our foot into the millennial world, that I'm a little older, so I don't really know what they're into. So I send him the proofs. He sends back feedback. Like for instance, today he sent me back a little note. I don't like the artwork on page 4. Boom, I redid it.
Right.
It's like, okay, fine. You need something a little better. There we go. And
we'll redo it. And that's something else that you need to put on the add-ons for this campaign is, if you've got them, Cluster Fudge copies. Now, obviously, I guess, Mark, that they are more mature. Maybe you don't want to mix those up in there. I would get that.
Well, we do have other books that we could throw in there. The thing about Cyclopean is, because we're moving into a rebooted universe, I would be hesitant. Well, no, I guess we could put in the old Hero Shack stuff, but I don't consider the old Hero Shack stuff canon. So Cyclopean's in there, but some of the stuff that happens, for instance, the first incarnation of Cyclopian, he was psychic. So he didn't have to know sign language. He just telepathically communicated.
Right, you took that away.
And I thought,
that was a cheat.
But there's a beautiful inborn, I want to call it a weakness, but a character trait there. It's not really a weakness. You can ask any deaf person if they feel weakened, and most of them, no, they talk, they have lives.
Well, it's like if you have a disability, you've learned to
but
live
it's
with it. Many
something
people.
that we all take for granted, our hearing. And I thought that's a great thing to add to a character that, if you sneak up on him, he's far less invulnerable, and he can't hear you sneaking up. So
Yeah.
it gives him an interesting, you know what I mean, an interesting dimension there.
It also challenges you as the artist to give him expression. I mean, he's only got one eyeball,
Right.
and that's it. So you got to make him look afraid, concerned, happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun because basically the top of his head becomes almost like a lip, and you can curve it in, you can curve it around.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things I love about him is his eye. His one eye that he has is so full of expression. Like in some of the panels that I've seen, I'm like, oh my gosh, you can tell that he's like so sad. You can see it.
It's the puppy dog effect, but there's only one eye to do it with.
It was so cool. And another thing I just want to mention about Cyclopean is that, he has a very unique way to communicate. And communication is really a very huge thing in our world. Lack of communication, different ways to communicate. And I think that by portraying a superhero that has some limitations in communication, who knows? We may get people out there that
You should tell
can
him
relate to
why
that.
you're saying that, though.
Okay, so we know that my husband has high functioning autism. He's super high functioning. He's super nerdy. He thinks in black and white and thinks outside the box like nobody even understands. I have to rein him in. Like you can't. Nobody
You're
would understand.
falling off track.
But anyway, so I said most of his characters have their main thing is like focused on communication. So Cyclopian is really his biggest thing is like communication and how he communicates with people.
But she pointed that out to me like this week, and I was like, what? And she's like, oh yeah, all your characters seem to be related to communication and how they express themselves. And I'm
very different.
I guess so. I didn't think of that, but
yeah, very, like even in Cluster Fudge, that was like a whole mental thing. The way he was,
yeah. In Cluster Fudge, I guess is still in demand. I'm not in charge of that campaign, but
it is.
She has left it on in demand, and I'm like, okay, I guess.
I'm like, why not? Right? Why?
It's an online store. Just use it.
It's like a store, exactly. It's like
as long as copies are being sold from it, Indiegogo will keep it open.
Yeah, we just sold a couple more copies. So
yeah, and see, even though we've been doing this for a little while, we're still learning a lot. So
yeah, I'm still learning a lot.
No, I am. I mean, like
we are.
I didn't know in demand could go on and on and on.
Yeah, as long as you sell, I think it's a 6-month lapse. If you don't sell anything within 6 months, they'll pull down the campaign. But within 6 months, if you sold just one copy, they'll keep it up for you.
There you go. Well, I want to see this one succeed. And it's not there yet. So I'm going to have to start retweeting this one every day and getting you on other shows. I know we are broadcasting right now to the madness on Facebook, but I'm going to make sure that you get a slot on one of Pops Van Zant's shows. Maybe get you in on CromCon, which is his monthly convention online that runs for 3 days, 12 hours of streaming a day. We just get you slotted in somewhere there. Get this in front of people because this looks like a really fun book. And having read Cluster Fudge, I know that there is storytelling talent in here. So I want to see what you're doing with this character.
Awesome.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, you can ask me anything.
What would you think people prefer? A quick 30-second video for promo or just simple, here's a JPEG of my character with a link?
On a video, like a tweet or something?
Like when I'm tweeting stuff, should I shoot for doing a quick short video, or do you think people prefer just a static image? I think
tweets are fine with the static image. Your Kickstarter video, your Indiegogo video should be like 30 to 45 seconds, and it should be about the comic. A lot of them, are like, "Hi, I'm John, and this is my comic." Do something that. What was it Patton Oswalt used to say? He wants movies that make a mini movie in your head. So the comic video should be like a mini movie of your comic that gives them an idea of what's going to happen in the book, not just that the book exists.
Right. Like, here's our book, buy it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I know what he means, because I've seen a lot of them where they're like, they'll go through a bio on what they're doing. And it's not that that's not interesting, but you want to get that elevator pitch, 30 to 45 seconds. Because I know shorter is better. When I first started, I had like an 8-minute video.
Like, oh my God, Chris.
And people were like, no, stop.
Please.
I was all ready to buy your book, and now I'm going to tell other people to refund.
Just avoid that guy's page. It's 8 minutes long, and it's hell.
No. Oh my goodness.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure having both of you on here tonight, Chris and Diana. And I can't believe we didn't have you on for Cluster Fudge, and I wish we had.
Well, I have to tell you, I have a hard time getting out to these mentally. Like, this is a huge thing to come see you. Like, I'm excited to, but building up to it, I get like, oh, what am I going to do?
He has this little anxiety moments. That's I'm the sidekick here. I'm like, you can do this. I'll just sit and be there with you.
Well,
without her, there is no Cluster Fudge.
I'll tell you, on this side of the show, and it's the same for all the shows, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. We're just making it up as we go along. So this is all we want to do is learn about your book and find a reason to buy it and tell other people to buy it. So as long as you keep providing that, you'll do just fine on shows.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for coming. Everybody in the chat, appreciate you being here. Hopefully you will go out and check out the Great Cyclopean and find out why he's so great. Click on the link to Kickstarter. And as always, we just hope you